The East Baton Rouge Metro Council will consider nearly doubling the amount of money a local law firm gets to represent the Baton Rouge police chief in legal cases. It's the last item on the agenda for Wednesday, August the 11th, item 110. The chief is asking the council to increase the amount for legal representation from $78,000 a year up to $150,000 a year. That money is your tax dollars.
We chose to be transparent and implement reform.
That's what Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul explained to the City Parish Metro Council in February 2021 when he requested $52,000 more for his legal representation.
Just about every month there's an appeal before the Civil Service Board based on discipline that I've given. Since I've been here, there's been 65 cases that I've heard where it was not sustained. Sustained violations that was heard 90. So that firm has been private firms have been representing me since 2018.
For your understanding, the parish attorney's office assigns a lawyer to the police department full time. Currently, that is Dealey Morris. However, if a chief or the department were to need a counsel outside the appointed lawyer, they can go to private firms, hire an attorney, and pay them separately. The parish attorney's representative does not cost additional money. When the department is investigating an officer, that officer does have the right to appeal the chief's discipline. They do that before the Municipal Fire and Police Civil Service Board. A chief can hire a private lawyer to represent him and the department at the Civil Service Board. In fact, there's money set aside for that very reason in the annual budget. Unfiltered with Kieran went digging through the budgets going back to 2009. Back then, $33,000 a year was designated for, quote, legal services in the representation of the chief of police in all matters before the Municipal Fire and Police Civil Service Board. In 2010, it went up to $39,000. For the next 9 years, the budget remained at $39,000 a year for any chief to use, and former police chiefs say they did use outside counsel to represent them as well during civil service hearings. But they cannot remember ever having to ask for more than what was already budgeted. Then in 2020, while Murphy Paul was the chief, the budget doubled and was not to exceed $78,000 a year. James Raines and Leo Hamilton from the Brazil Saxon Wilson law firm in Baton Rouge represent the chief in all matters when it comes to discipline for officers. Earlier this year in February, the chief asked for the amount to be increased from $78,000 to about $130,000 as the maximum. That raised some questions from the public and council members.
I just was wondering if we could get some kind of inclination or inkling of why such a large increase is. Are there more court cases coming up, or what is it that's causing this increase?
My question is, why are we having outside counsel do this as opposed to inside counsel? It seems like what has traditionally been a function of your office, and I understand going to outside counsel for specific cases and that sort of thing, but to totally farm out this function to outside counsel.
You talking about this police contract?
Seems like this would be Dealey's position and what she would normally do.
You talking about this specific police contract?
Yes.
Yeah, this is at the request of the chief. So this is accommodating the chief and his request that he wanted separate counsel to handle the discipline as opposed to having Dealey, who is his general counsel, who handles all matters Baton Rouge Police and is involved in counseling him with certain situations dealing with hiring and firing. But he specifically requested, and I wish he was here to be able to provide the information, but he specifically requested to have this counsel, and I accommodated him, knowing that this amount will come out of his budget.
Andy Dotson is with the parish attorney's office and was helping answer questions. The chief was asked to show up and answer council members' questions, and he did about half an hour later.
Apologize for not being here. I was in the midst of being briefed on the sensitive investigation that I am not able to speak on publicly at this time. When an employee appeals that, they represent me before the Civil Service Board or any other hearings related to that. For example, I've been there have been injunctions filed against me. They represent me on injunctions as well. I learned that chiefs prior to me also had outside counsel. So I went to the parish attorney's office and asked if I can do what former chiefs had done and hire outside counsel to represent me.
But again, former chiefs said they purposely did their best to avoid appeal hearings and work out the discipline between the union and the officer. Civil service hearings were saved for the worst of the worst cases, according to them. Plus, the former chiefs added that they never had a need for 2 attorneys to represent them. Now the chief is asking for an increase to $150,000, an item that will be discussed at the Metro Council meeting on August the 11th.
It is something that he inherited. And I think as the chief who's been through some of the most uncommon situations probably in the history of Baton Rouge, I think he deserves to be able to choose legal representation.
So I went digging into all the city's expenditures for this specific law firm. Going back to 2018, there have been 204 transactions with the firm's total amount billed coming out to be $217,084. Of that amount, about $25,000 in checks have not cleared just yet. As for the amount that was inherited, the department spent $17,500 on legal fees against Blaine Salamone and Howie Lake in 2018 and 19. Now, even if you take that amount off from what records show the law firm is owed, the chief has still spent $199,584 since 2020. That already exceeds the maximum allowed, be it $78,000, $130,000, or even what he's requesting now at $150,000.
This isn't uncommon. I think it happens a lot of times in high-profile litigations, and without a doubt, since you've been here, everything seems to have been, you inherited a lot of high-profile.
In looking through the charges from the law firm for specific officers, many of those cases are while Murphy Paul has been the chief. They were not inherited. Prime example, Sire Creel, the vice president of the police union. He interviewed with Unfiltered with Kieran in July 2020 over informational billboards the union was putting up around Baton Rouge. Not even 2 weeks later, the department launched an internal affairs investigation. While the administration claimed Creel violated specific policies, conduct unbecoming of an officer, unauthorized public statements, and carrying out orders, it was more than obvious why he was really under investigation. The department claimed Creel needed prior authorization from the chief to interview with the media. Never before has a union member needed permission to interview because the union is a separate entity from the police department. Then they claimed he presented himself as a police officer by wearing uniform pants, his badge and gun. As seen here, he wore a Disney polo shirt with bicycle uniformed pants, and by their own policy, even when off duty, officers are required to carry their gun and badge as long as they are within city limits, which Creel was at the time of this interview. Plus, in the past, union leaders have done interviews with full uniforms and their badge and guns on, and never has any internal affairs investigation popped up. Then the social media violation because the interview was posted to YouTube, but he didn't post it, so how did he violate the policy? All 3 violations were sustained, and Creel was fired over that one interview. He appealed his termination before the Civil Service Board, a hearing that went well into the early morning hours of the next day. Once again, the word Kieran was used 41 times in this hearing, and the word YouTube used 30 times. But Raines and Hamilton defended the chief that Creel violated policies, and that's why he was fired. In the end, the board unanimously decided Creel was wrongfully terminated and he was given his job back. For this one case against Creel, the private law firm billed city police $34,262. That is nearly half of the amount designated for the entire year for legal representation for the chief. And according to 2018 statistics, the starting pay for a rookie officer with Baton Rouge Police is $33,000. Then there's the case against Sergeant John Dothier. He's the officer who requested an investigation into the chief. He spent the next several months fighting the chief's suspension and demotion. It was all over officers accidentally going to the wrong home based on the information they had at the time and pulling a woman out of her home. In the end, the appeal board reversed his demotion and reduced his suspension from 60 days to 39 days. Dothier's defense cost taxpayers $6,415 so far. Now, that does not even include the nearly 13-hour-long appeal hearing that the firm has yet to bill the city, so you can expect that number to increase. Those are two cases where the chief's attorneys defended him only to lose the cases. And the third example is Officer Michelle Patterson, who was fired in 2018 and recently rehired, the subject of a separate Unfiltered with Kieran investigation. Not only is she back patrolling the streets, she was given the rank of corporal that you get after working at the department for 6 years since she started in 2015. But she's also been given back pay to the day she was fired. Multiple sources say the chief, Patterson, and Patterson's brother-in-law, Clay Young, who himself has a nearly $200,000 contract to manage BRPD's Facebook page, had a private meeting to work out the details of her return. Multiple sources also said that the attorneys for Patterson nor the chief were at this meeting, but still the firm will be paid $6,862 for defending the chief against Patterson. The examples go on, but the chief told the Metro Council in February he's changing the culture of the department.
You know, changing the culture is hard, right? And a lot of the discipline that I have given, it's appealed.
But when we're talking about exceeding $80,000 for a calendar year for one service, I think we have to start asking the question of, and I understand if it's not Dealey or whoever, if you need an additional person or whatever, but it may make more sense financially to bring it back in-house, I guess.
Again, this discussion is from February when the chief was asking for an increase to $130,000. Councilman Dwight Hudson asked why the chief could not use Dealey Morris, who is assigned to represent the police department from the parish attorney's office. The chief explained she already has a lot on her plate.
The parish attorney's office assigns an attorney to us full-time. They've taken about 1,400 public records requests a year. 1,400. We get a lot of public records requests. The parish attorney also field questions daily on operational issues. If a police officer has a question about the legalities of an arrest. So could you imagine every email that Dealey Morris has to go through and say, well, this is legal, this is related to a case, this is client attorney privilege. She has to go through every single one of them. That is policing in Baton Rouge today. And I get public records requests like that. I spend today going through my emails before it goes out in the public, sitting down as the chief of police, because I want to know every email that's going out for public consumption, what I said, who I talked to, so I can be prepared. That is what the parish attorney office has to do every week on my emails, just so you know.
My concern is that if we continue down this road, at some point, we're going to be spending $130,000 in a calendar year on something that could be done in-house for much cheaper.
Now the chief is asking to amend the amount, not to exceed $150,000 in a year for his legal representation. Again, according to the city parish's own records, Brazil, Saxon Wilson has billed taxpayers more than 200 times for a total of $217,000. The parish attorney's office said that money comes out of the police department's fund. Given that an officer's starting pay at BRPD is $33,000 and the shortage of officers, the amount paid for the chief's private legal representation is enough to hire 6.5 new police officers. Unfiltered with Kieran did try to find the signed contract from February where the maximum amount increased to $130,000. But as of now, no word if it was ever signed or not. Had it been, the verbiage on the Metro Council agenda should read that the chief is asking for the amount to be increased from $130,000 to $150,000. Instead, as of now, it reads he's asking for an increase from the present $78,000 a year for legal representation to $150,000 a year. Again, this item is the last thing on tonight's agenda before the East Baton Rouge Metro Council, and you, the public, do have a right to speak up on it. Thanks for watching. If you like my work, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered with Kieran.